September 26, 1983, 12:15 a.m. Inside a secret underground bunker outside Moscow, an alarm rips through the silence. A screen flashes red. One word, in Russian, launch. The computer says it's certain. An American nuclear missile is in the air, headed straight for the Soviet Union. The man staring at that screen has 10 minutes to decide if it's real. If he gets it wrong, you and I are probably not here right now. His name was Stanislav Petrov, and what happened in the next 23 minutes never made the news. Almost nobody knew his name for over a decade. To understand why this moment was so dangerous, you need to understand what 1983 actually felt like. 3 weeks earlier, Soviet fighter jets shot down a passenger plane, Korean Airlines Flight 007, killing 269 people, including a US congressman. The Soviets believed it was a spy plane. The world believed it was a massacre. President Reagan had just called the USSR an evil empire. NATO was deploying missiles in Europe that could reach Moscow in under 10 minutes flat. The Soviets were so paranoid about a surprise American strike, they had an entire secret operation, codenamed Ryan, just to watch for warning signs of war. Both sides were exhausted, paranoid, and on a hair trigger. This was the single most dangerous moment of the entire Cold War, and it's the exact night the machines got it wrong. The Soviets had a network of satellites called OKO, the Eye. Their job? Watch American missile fields from space and give Moscow a 10-minute head start if the US ever launched. That data fed into a bunker called Serpukhov 15 and into the most powerful computer in the Soviet Union. If it detected a launch, the alert went straight up the chain, to the general staff, to the nuclear briefcase, to the final decision makers. Petrov wasn't even supposed to be on shift that night. He was filling in for a sick colleague. He also wasn't a typical soldier. He was an engineer, trained to question systems, not just obey them. That detail matters more than you think. 12:15 a.m. The siren screams. One missile detected, from Montana. The system says 100% confidence. Petrov freezes. He later said it felt like sitting on a hot frying pan. Then, 15 seconds later, a second missile. Then a third, a fourth, a fifth. The screen upgrades from launch to missile strike. Protocol is simple. Report it, pass it up the chain. Let Moscow decide. If he does that, with tensions this high after a passenger plane was just shot down, there's a real chance the Soviet leadership pulls the trigger on a full retaliatory strike. He has minutes, maybe less. And here's where Petrov does something almost nobody else in his position would have done. He starts asking questions instead of following orders. First, Soviet doctrine said a real American first strike would involve hundreds of missiles, not 5. 5 missiles made no military sense. Second, ground radar, which should confirm any incoming missile, showed absolutely nothing. Total silence. Third, the alert had moved through the system's verification checks unusually fast, almost like a glitch. With a phone in one hand and an intercom in the other, Petrov made the call. System malfunction. False alarm. Then he waited, 23 minutes. Knowing that if he was wrong, he wouldn't even survive long enough to be punished for it. No missiles ever landed. He was right. The cause? The satellite had mistaken sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds for the heat of missile launches. A trick of the light nearly ended the world. You'd think Petrov got a medal. He didn't. Rewarding him meant admitting the Soviet system was flawed, and that would have embarrassed the people who built it. So instead, he was quietly reprimanded. Officially, for failing to fill out paperwork correctly during the incident. His own explanation? I had a phone in one hand and an intercom in the other. I didn't have a third hand to write in the logbook. The story stayed classified for 15 years. Petrov retired. And during the economic collapse of the post-Soviet 1990s, he lived in poverty in a small town outside Moscow, growing potatoes on a small plot of land just to get by. The man who may have prevented nuclear war was struggling to survive. The world only learned his name in the late 1990s when a retired Soviet general published his memoirs. Petrov finally received recognition, peace prizes, a United Nations tribute, and a documentary. But by then, decades had already passed. He passed away in 2017, quietly. His death wasn't even widely reported for months. When asked if he saw himself as a hero, Petrov said something that still gives people chills. I was just doing my job. I was simply the right person at the right time. That's all. He didn't stop World War III with a weapon. He stopped it by simply doubting a machine. And for that, almost nobody knew his name. If history forgetting its real heroes bothers you as much as it bothers me, subscribe to Mind Scroll, because there are a lot more stories like this one waiting to be told.